Welcome back to the Consistory of the Coelc YouTube channel. We're continuing through my Bible study series on the 10 plagues, looking at plague number 2 on frogs. Now, some scholars associate this plague with the goddess Hekek, because she's a goddess of fertility and associated with the Nile, from where the frogs come, but also she had a frog head. However, she's not one of the supreming Neds that I mentioned in the previous study. And I think there is a better god that may be associated with this plague. And that would be Seth's wife, Nephthys. Nephthys, I think that's how I'm saying it. She's the goddess of the household, connected with childbirth, nursing mothers, and wives. Her name literally means mistress of the house. And see, the reason I think she's a better candidate is that the frog plagues happen in Egypt all the time. But this is specifically a worse plague that is going into people's houses, into their homes, their beds, their ovens, their kneading bowls. This isn't just affecting the people, it's specifically attacking the housewives, the homes where the women work. So this is kind of like God pitting two of the Egyptian gods against each other. Let's take the frog god and make a fight with the household god. The magicians also used their demonic arts again this time to bring forth more frogs. Basically to say, see Moses, you're nothing special, we can do this too. But they couldn't make them leave. This is where the first time Pharaoh is moved to plead with Moses and say, alright, make the frogs go away and I'll let your people go. Now what is interesting here is that Moses says to Pharaoh, okay, you pick a time when you want me to intercede. And Pharaoh says, tomorrow. Meaning, do it tomorrow. Go ahead. And the reason Pharaoh does this is to challenge Moses. We're like, yeah, I don't believe you're going to be able to do this. Now, the reformer John Calvin takes a slightly different view of this whole matter, thinking that the text should be translated differently. He says that it's preposterous to think that Pharaoh would go to bed waiting for Moses to fix the problem tomorrow. In other words, Calvin argues that the text should actually be translated that Pharaoh is not saying tomorrow remove the plague, but more go and take away the plague now and tomorrow you can leave. That is kind of a minority position and it doesn't really seem to fit with the text or what anyone else has really interpreted. The Lutheran commentator Paul Kretzmann, he brings up the point saying that Pharaoh is saying to Moses, fix the plague tomorrow, not because he trusts Moses, but the complete opposite. He doesn't trust Moses. And he's given Moses a really short deadline, thinking there's no way Moses could fix this problem. Yeah, Moses, go ahead. Yeah, get rid of all the frogs by tomorrow. And so Moses is simply saying, look, I will do it. So it's not really about Pharaoh going to bed happy. It's about Pharaoh going to bed smugly thinking Moses will fail. But then it happens. And then yet, Pharaoh doesn't keep his end of the bargain. Now, some people could argue that maybe the reason Pharaoh didn't keep his end of the bargain is because Moses didn't keep his end of the bargain. Pharaoh asked for all the plagues to go away, and Moses said that there wouldn't be any left there. But then when Moses intercedes, God doesn't answer the prayer the way Pharaoh requested. God kills the frogs where they are, and the people have to clean them up into big, stinking, rotting piles. And so some people would argue that, oh, Pharaoh, he hardened his heart because God didn't give him what he wanted. And so God was actually deliberately not answering Pharaoh the correct way to harden his heart. However, the text explicitly says that Pharaoh got respite, he got relief, and when he saw the relief, that's when he hardened his heart. You know, this is standard Christian, this is standard sinful behavior as we see in the scriptures. A good example is the book of Judges. The people rebelled against God, so he handed them over to the enemies. Then they prayed to God for help, he gave them help, and then after they got peace, they went straight back to sinning. People do this all the time and Pharaoh's no different. And this is actually going to happen multiple times throughout this series on the plagues, where Pharaoh gets relief, he gets what he wants, and as soon as he gets what he wants, he backflips and doesn't keep his end of the bargain. Now, one thing I've just remembered, that I didn't actually read the text at the beginning of this Bible study. So I'm going to read it now to actually wrap up this Bible study, and next time I hope to remember to read the text before we start. So our text comes from Exodus 8 verses 1 to 15. And the Lord said to Moses, "Go into Pharaoh and say to him, Thus says the Lord, let my people go that they may serve me. But if you refuse to let them go, behold, I will plague all your country with frogs. The Nile shall swarm with frogs that shall come up into your house and into your bedrooms and on your beds and in the house of your servants and on your people and in the ovens and kneading bowls. And the frogs shall come up on you and on the people and on all your servants." And the Lord said to Moses, "Say to Aaron, stretch out your hand with your staff over the rivers, over the canals and over the pools, and make frogs come to the land of Egypt." So Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. But the magicians did the same with their secret arts, and Pharaoh made frogs come unto the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron and said, "Plead with the Lord to take away the frogs from me and from my people, and I will let the people go to sacrifice to the Lord." And Moses said to Pharaoh, "Be pleased to command me, and I am to plead for you and your servants and for the people, that the frogs be cut off from you and your houses, and be left only in the Nile." And he said, "Tomorrow." And Moses said, "Be it as you say, so that you may know that there is no one like the Lord our God. The frogs shall go away from you and your houses and your servants and your people, and they shall be left only in the Nile." So Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, and Moses cried to the Lord about the frogs as he had agreed with Pharaoh. And the Lord did according to the word of Moses, and the frogs died in the houses and the courtyards and the field, and they gathered them together in heaps, and the land stank. And when Pharaoh saw that he had respite, he hardened his heart and would not listen to them as the Lord had said. As I pointed out there, the text doesn't say God did something different. He actually says God answered and did according to the words of Moses. So even though Moses is saying things like they'll leave you and they'll be left only in the Nile, he's clearly talking about the living frogs, not the dead frogs. He's not talking about the frogs being cast back into the Nile, as some might argue to say that, oh, God didn't fulfill the prayer properly. Well, God did, according to the text. It says God did exactly what Moses asked him. Pharaoh simply just, reneged on his deal because he got relief and he thought, oh, good, I've got peace, I can do what I want now. So that's the end of our Bible study. Join us again next time. I've been your host, Reverend Jake Zabel. Goodbye and God bless.